History is shaped by inflection points, moments when technology doesn't just improve industry, it changes its direction forever. We are living through one of those moments right now. Artificial intelligence is defining the future of technology. In this series, we explore the AI inflection point and why the coming months will separate the market leaders from those who choose to ignore AI. So ask yourself, is your business built to scale with the coming wave, or are you still anchored to legacy thinking?
Agentic AI is essentially the form of AI where it not only has access to information, but it starts acting and executing like potentially a human would do, that has agency, that can make decisions, that can think about things, reason about the best outcome, and then pursue an outcome by executing those commands and actions. And that is a major breakthrough for all of us.
Agentic AI is probably the biggest technology of our lifetimes. It's this idea, the promise that you've been hearing everywhere about what AI will be able to do becoming reality. I don't think most people even understand what it can do yet, what kind of change this is going to make in the world, or how big it's going to be. So many ripples of improvement that it's hard for anyone to even imagine the full impact that this will have even within the next few months. If speaking purely on a technology level, you can think of agentic AI as finally AI being able to connect to everything in your business and starting to do the work that people would normally do, or at least a lot of it, not everything, in ways and efficiency levels that are hard to imagine. Right now, it is completely dominating the software development space, which is the early adopter for agentic AI. And we can see it completely changing how developers work, the level of capability that we can expect from any individual developer, and simply the amount of work and throughput that is possible from one person. This is likely to continue to exponentially grow from here on out.
So we've seen a couple of major inflection points over the past 3 years in AI. It started off obviously with the launch of ChatGPT, which for the first time made language models accessible to normal people. And they essentially created an interface onto a model that was trained on pretty much everything in the world. And it created this amazing ability for people to have access to information and intelligence previously only accessible to data scientists. That created a massive groundswell and had millions of users sign up in the first couple of weeks. It grew faster than even Facebook or any of the social networks has ever done. That was the first major breakthrough, and the technology behind it was enabled by a couple of breakthroughs, things like transformers that were able to understand sentences, the ability to process billions of websites data and train that. So that was a major point, and suddenly we had this movement where hundreds of millions of people around the world had access to AI. The second major inflection point was at the end of 2024, when these models could start to reason like a human. And that was very interesting for us all, because now you can start interrogating data with a model. Its ability to really consider all the aspects of a certain piece of information or knowledge was a really big breakthrough, and it enabled a whole lot of new use cases that allowed us to extract so much more intelligence out of that. But it was still something that you had to almost get an answer from instead of potentially giving instructions to. The third major inflection point was the beginning of this year, 2026, when we saw the rise of agents. And that was a big step change, and that's where agentic AI comes in, where you move from something that can answer a question to something that can do a task, that can execute a workflow, that can potentially post a financial transaction, write a document, send an email, and do actual work. And that has completely changed the way that we think about information and technology, and it opens up a wealth of new use cases to all of us.
6 months ago, these models were not able to do this work, and now they can, and the next generation is even better and can do it even more. So we are set for a roller coaster ride of transformation based on what these models unlock for the world. Agentic AI is trending now because, one, the models are finally at a point where they offer a level of intellect that make them significantly easier to integrate into systems and significantly more capable of doing work we typically expect people or ourselves to do. And two, we've sufficiently advanced in the technology around the models, the harness that connects them to the world, to make this accessible in a way where adoption starts to make sense. Fundamentally, the resistance to integrate into the world has simply become low enough for it to start to change us in a meaningful way.
Agentic AI has exploded this year due to a couple of things happening at the same time. So there's a convergence of, firstly, the underlying AI models that's capable of reasoning, because reasoning is really important in agentic AI, to reason and to consider the best route to take an action. So that's the first thing. The capability of the models have grown exponentially over the past 4 years to the point where it now has the capability to perform these actions. Also, the maturity of the technology and also the adoption in enterprise have converged at the same time. So organizations are trusting, firstly, that this capability is practical and can be used in their businesses. We have the compute available to do it. We have the infrastructure and platforms like VectorMind that facilitates agents doing this work. And therefore, there's this whole adoption curve that's now really in full flight for businesses to adopt AI agents and agentic AI. So it's a convergence of all the right elements at the right time. And there's an explosion in terms of the capability. What's also interesting is sometimes you need something to ignite these capabilities. So there was an open source project that was launched at the beginning of the year where it almost showcased the potential of agents seamlessly moving across all your different systems, your CRM and your ERP systems and your email systems, and it just performs work for you. And that sort of like created a proxy for business to say, well, this is certainly possible in an enterprise environment also. And then providers like VectorMind then steps in and provides a safe environment for that, hence driving the adoption. And that's why it's probably trending at the moment, because businesses are seeing the value out of these systems performing tasks automatically.
Right now, what can agents do for you? What do we have immediately? It's a pretty long list to start off with. We are using it to write collateral. We are using it to produce quotes and RFPs and specs. We're using it to review code. Everything in the software lifecycle we can do with agents.
Practical examples that we see our customers already using agents in production would be for administrative workflows. That's got a bit of variation in it. So think of something like a vendor onboarding process where the supplier has to submit a whole bunch of supporting documents, fill out many forms. Traditionally, this would go to a human to analyze which documents are still valid. If there are any gaps or expired documents, that person would traditionally then reach out to the supplier and finish the process by getting the documentation. This is typically something where an agent can now do some of the work. So an AI agent can man that email box or the web form or the ERP form. It would collect the information, it would analyze it automatically by saying, are the VAT certificates valid? Are we missing any ID numbers or ID documents from directors or any beneficial documentation, anything that is missing? The agent can then make a decision to reach out to the supplier and request the missing documentation. Once that comes in, process it again and then post it in the supply chain system or approve it in the bookkeeping system, or then trigger a process internally. So that then transforms the way that little process works. Now that obviously is applicable to almost any administrative process. So it's really powerful for large and small businesses. And we typically see practical use cases like this just takes tasks that would take 3 or 4 or 5 days and finish them in a matter of hours, automatically and unassisted, which is extremely powerful.
If we look a little bit further in the space of databases, we have customers using agents to track their large systems, design and document them, review them, assist the database engineers. We have agents doing everything from reading through spec documents and summarizing them for teams, to assessing insurance cases, to dealing with customers asking questions, to looking for the right car for a customer wants to buy, or to book a service. They can literally fill almost any function knowledge workers can fill. The barrier right now to get these into your organization is setting up a harness that connects these agents to your systems. That is the effort that everyone needs to start on now. And understanding where in your business you will get the most advantage from automating knowledge work. This is typically the points where you have the most volume in your organization. That can be as simple as processing procurement, which is another use case where we use this, dealing with invoices or with quotes or customer requests, support tickets, minor programming tasks, or even up to developing full prototype systems, creating PowerPoint decks, working in Excel files. The list is so large. What you should be asking is, what part of your business will gain the most impact from more knowledge automation? And that is the points where you should be looking at getting Agentic AI.
We see that Agentic AI, which is a little bit different to other technologies previously, benefits all sizes of businesses. It's obviously very visible, and the multiplier on a very large organization is obviously more tangible. If you've got 1,000 knowledge workers and you empower them, the output is quite dramatic. However, I don't think that Agentic AI is exclusively benefiting large business. In fact, we're living in an age now where you will have billionaires where business is run by one person and an army of agents.
If you're not building your enterprise strategy for Agentic AI now, you're facing severe disadvantage. It's going to be a massive, massive disruption, even to bring it in now. And the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to even fathom that exponential advantage that you're losing out on.
Enterprises have to consider the impact that Agentic AI will have in their organizations, and similarly the lack of an Agentic AI strategy will have on their business. The reality is that agents will perform work like humans used to do, and at the moment the big opportunity is to augment your workforce and create a multiplier out of your people by giving them these amazing tools and capabilities and agents that will help them perform their work more accurately, more productively, more efficiently. Now, the way that AI agents should be built is a library of capabilities, and you build up the strategy and the capability over time. Every agent that you build, if built correctly, will make the next one a little bit easier to build, and essentially you are maturing your agentic capabilities, which consist of technical components like tools and skills and connectors and services. And if you build it in the right way, the library expands and you've got 60 to 70% reusability on new projects. So organizations and enterprises that starts on this journey now and builds in the right way, not only builds the base in order to make their components more reusable, but also very importantly starts activating the agents to actually augment their workforce. And we see in some of our customers' operations that agents can provide a 50 to 400% increase in productivity for any individual. So if you've got a business of 1,000 employees, and you activate these capabilities. In the short term, it could be the output of 1,500 employees, and in a year's time, it could be 2,000. So if you look at it in those kind of terms, then not taking this approach opens the risk that your competitors might do that, and that might disrupt the whole industry, and it will most certainly have an impact on both those organizations, the ones who takes this opportunity and embeds it in the organization and really works on the strategy to augment their employees and their staff to be more productive and more efficient.
A developer with a good agentic harness can get 10 to 30 times the amount of work done than someone without it. Even comparing against using, say, ChatGPT and asking it questions and having it do a lot of the work, the moment you go agentic, you get literally 30 times faster. In our organization, everyone is using agents to do everything. It's not just an accelerator, it is literally a complete change in the way you operate. This is going to be true for all knowledge workers. It is going to completely transform how everyone operates and completely change the efficiency scale expected per capita in your business and consequently of your whole organization. If you are not prepared, you can fully expect competitors to come in with people doing 10 to 30 times the amount of work per head, and you will simply be at such a severe disadvantage, it's going to be really hard to catch up. Due to the structural change that this requires in your business, the fact that every job works differently, that everyone can do more, that everyone has this higher level of skill when they are using agents, it's not something you're going to be able to just catch up with in 2 years.
We believe that one of the most important aspects of agentic AI is to still consider the risks of general AI, which is that we have to apply some enterprise rules in terms of our infrastructure. So things like data security, data privacy should be part of the core platform that runs the agentic AI. Similarly, we want to look at the inherent risks of models. Models, even the best models and premium models and frontier models available still make mistakes. They are still generalists, and that's why platforms like VectorMind exist, is in order to make those models more accurate. Number one, which is very important, is to get to a business grade outcome where an agent can be 99 to 100% accurate and be repeatable and to be accurate all the time. That is a key component, is the accuracy, and that's why a platform like VectorMind provides the scaffolding and the tooling around the AI models and around the AI agents to still provide you with business grade and enterprise grade accuracy. The second thing is enterprise grade security and safety in terms of these things. So a zero trust platform where the data is tenanted, isolated, your company's confidential information, your company's ERP data doesn't leave the tenant is absolutely essential. We work on an enterprise grade platform that secures that data and protects it. Now, very important is the difference between an enterprise platform for AI and the public AI systems is we do not allow the models to be trained on your data. It is absolutely essential to understand that when you use a public AI, especially one of the free accounts, that data might be used for future training. There are logs that's kept, there are all sorts of tooling that uses that data from the public providers. Enterprise platforms like VectorMind protects you against that by not sharing that information and not allowing the new models to be trained on your data. So data privacy is absolutely essential. The privacy of your customers' information is just as important. There are legislation like POPIA that prohibits you from sharing that information, and therefore the fundamentals of an AI platform is still critical. You have to have what we call trust, risk and security management that handles that before you even get to the agentic layer. The next component that is absolutely essential in terms of enterprise systems is that you have to be able to explain why an agent makes a certain decision. So let's think of it in human terms. If you got a specialist that makes a decision and there's an issue with the decision, you can go to that person and say, but why did you make the decision? Similarly, AI agents should be completely traceable and observable and explainable. Again, therein comes the enterprise platform. It should not be a black box. Irrespective of capability, the first important aspect is still have enterprise guardrails, like explainability. So VectorMind handles that by logging the decisions that an agent makes in order to perform an action. Let's take our example that we discussed earlier where there's documentation missing. You want to know why did the agent reach out to the supplier and why did they ask for a certain piece of information. There should be a log that says, this is what was extracted, we could not find the ID number, we need it from the customer, this is why we made the decision. So explainability together with data security and then accuracy is the difference between an enterprise platform that can be used in repeatable outcomes that drive business value or hobbyist AI that is available to consumers. And therein lies the difference.
I think one of the biggest things every enterprise needs to be asking and thinking about in this era of agents is data security. If agents get access to more and more of our systems, as they do this to help our people, to accelerate us, they will have reach into every single system in our organization. That makes where these agents run extremely security conscious. We have to really think about what they have access to, which will be everything, and how we manage the security around it. For this to make sense, we will not want these agents to run in a third-party system. We will not want them to run outside of our tightly controlled data centers, our own environments, simply due to the unparalleled access that they will ultimately get. I believe it is absolutely critical for companies to own where their agents will run. There is also the aspect of what models, and it will not be one, it will be many, we will use in these agents, and that is an enterprise level decision. There are a lot of models available right now that you can run on your own hardware in your own data center where you can keep complete data security. And that will, for the vast majority of use cases, be the preferred way of doing this. Granted, it comes with capital investment. You will need to buy all of the AI inferencing hardware to host these models yourselves. But ultimately, that will both be the most secure and the most reliable way of offering this capability to your organization. The other big thing to think about with this is if every person in your company is going to be using Agentic AI, and with if I mean when, imagine that going down. Imagine that getting breached. You want to control that system. This will be the heart of your delivery capability in your organization. I believe that platforms like what we're building here, like VectorMind, is going to be the answer for companies to manage and secure this themselves, instead of having to trust it to large cloud vendors and multi-hour outages that happen randomly, uncontrollable pricing, currency fluctuations outwards, and the risk of data or access, even more so than data, to your systems leaking out because it's running in some third-party cloud somewhere. This is the dominant thing that is going to determine security as your enterprise adopts AI. And everyone should be thinking about a strategy for who they trust access to the whole business with. This is that crucial.
Agents have to integrate into your ERP systems, into your back-end systems in order to extract this value. Fortunately, the technology has evolved to the point where this is now much easier. There are protocols to do that, which is far easier. The AI actually makes the API calls and does the integration for you instead of having to hire a team of integrators. This is a really exciting time, and it is changing the way that we think about back-end systems and ERP systems. So VectorMind, similar to most of the other AI frameworks out there, have standardized on certain industry standards to be able to integrate into systems, which is far easier now.
What can we integrate with would be the obvious next question. And the answer there is we can now use agentic systems to integrate with almost anything. If the system has a spec, an API, a set of documentation to work off, we can write an integration using AI. The world is fundamentally shifting from the idea of having everything pre-developed into a world where we can develop on demand and get extremely good results. We no longer have large lead times for connecting to anything. That is simply not a thing anymore. It is no longer a barrier. If the system can be integrated with, we're ready for it.
It's a really exciting time in terms of cross-system integration and extracting value out of that.
So what's next for agentic AI? For AI in general, where are we heading? Is one of the biggest questions that everyone's asking. And I think it's a question that is extremely hard to answer due to the amount of waves that AI is going to create and the sheer scale of each of these waves. In the very immediate future, right now for us already, you can see production per capita rising exponentially. I personally can do 10 to 30 times more a day, depends on the complexity of the work. I can program, I'm a programmer by primary trade. I can program in more languages now than I could ever before. Language is no longer a barrier. I can work with more libraries. I can do front end and back end at once. I can deal with 10 use cases at a time instead of 2 or 3. It is simply incredible to describe as an individual how accelerating it is to have an AI army behind you doing the work. This is going to perforate all businesses.
We believe that we will have a world very soon, this year still, where every knowledge worker, so anybody working with information, data, engineering, science, law, HR, research, will have many AI agents as teammates. And these agents will become very personal in the sense that I, as Andre, will have my own agents that does things that's important to my job. And these agents will be between 20 and 90. There's some researchers that reckon that most scientists and engineers will have more than 100 agents doing work for them every single day. We see that in our business. So obviously this is our world. We are an AI native business, and I see that our most experienced employees use up to 10 agents per day already. Now, as the capability grows of the models, as the tooling gets better, and our understanding on how to use this productively improves, I can see that in the next year, we will have a world where you've got 90 to 100 agents performing between 10 and 100 tasks per day. Now, what does that mean for us? It means breakthroughs in productivity. If you look at an organization with 1,000 people, why can they not have 5,000 people's output a year from today? That is the opportunity. The breakthroughs in terms of this just for day-to-day productivity and creating value out of our businesses, especially in Africa, where we have resource shortages. I think this is probably the biggest opportunity of our lifetimes. If we grab this opportunity, we do it in a responsible way, there is amazing opportunity for all of us. And the stuff is real. We see it today. We see it in our own business. We see it with our customers. As agents start doing the work, it is going to be easier to adopt it, and the value that gets extracted is phenomenal.
People everywhere being empowered by having access to more capability, more knowledge work, more intelligence, more learning, more research. It's a complete game changer for literally any job. Looking a bit towards the medium term, we're going to be using this to automate large parts of every business. We're just going to be doing less and less work to get the same results as an organization. it'll become unnecessary to do many of the boilerplate tasks first, and then increasingly we will be able to use these agents to extend our businesses to do more marketing, more sales, more development, more systems management, procedures, protocols. All of these things become things that we can automate instead of having to drive them rigorously as individuals. This is going to completely change how businesses are structured. Simply, we can expect businesses to be doing 5, 6, 10 times as much work within 2 or 3 years as this perforates all layers of the employment chain. It's hard to see further than that for me right now. There's so many consequences that it's hard to describe how the average business will even look as this runs through. And I think nobody can honestly tell you how the wave after that looks. It's simply that big.
It is probably the most exciting inflection point in our lifetime.